The timer was already running. 0 hours, 2 minutes and 41 seconds. The sound was small, almost delicate. Just a series of digital clicks inside a room so silent that every person inside seemed afraid to breathe too loudly. The red numbers blinked again. 0 hours, 2 minutes and 39 seconds. 10 armed guards stood frozen near the walls. 2 police negotiators whispered into radios that no one seemed to be answering fast enough. A bomb technician knelt 6 feet away, studying the device with the tense stillness of a man who understood exactly how close everyone was to dying. And in the middle of the room, tied to a heavy wooden chair, sat Jonathan Hale, technology billionaire, founder of Haley Systems, owner of private islands, data firms, satellite contracts, and enough money to move governments into polite conversations. But none of that mattered now, because the bomb strapped to his chest was real. And the countdown did not care who he was. Sweat slid down the side of Jonathan's face, not fast, not dramatic, just steady enough to show what his voice refused to reveal. He was afraid, not of pain, not even of death, exactly. He was afraid of dying in front of people who had spent years calling him untouchable. The irony was unbearable. For decades, Jonathan had built a life around control. Control over risk, control over outcomes, control over people. And now, he was tied to a chair in an abandoned municipal theater with a bomb on his chest, while strangers debated which wire might erase him. The timer blinked again. 0 hours, 2 minutes and 33 seconds. One of the bomb squad officers slowly shifted his weight. The device let out a short metallic chirp. Every person in the room froze. "No movement," the lead technician said sharply. The officer stopped mid-breath. Jonathan shut his eyes for 1 second, then opened them again. He had already decided he would not beg. He would not cry. He would not give whoever planned this the satisfaction of watching him unravel. But staying calm did not stop the mind from moving, and his mind was racing now. Who had done this? Why this way? Why him? No ransom demand had been made. No stock manipulation request. No political statement. Only a message sent to police 10 minutes before they found him. Make him listen before the timer ends. That was all. Jonathan had read the sentence twice when they showed it to him, and something about it disturbed him more than the bomb itself. It sounded personal, not like extortion, like accusation, like someone believed this was justice. The lead technician leaned in closer to the device. Wires, copper, coils. An improvised timer built into a reinforced plastic shell. A pressure trigger connected to the chest harness. And something else hidden beneath the casing. "Can you disarm it?" Jonathan asked. The technician did not look up. "I can try. That doesn't sound encouraging." "It shouldn't." Jonathan almost laughed. The man was honest, at least. That was rare. Another blink. 0 hours, 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Outside the theater, Sirens lit the rain-slick street in blue pulses. Inside, the building smelled of dust, wet concrete, and old velvet. The theater had been closed for years. Jonathan had once tried to buy the property through one of his redevelopment firms. He remembered that now with bitter clarity. He had planned to turn it into a luxury events venue, an old cultural landmark transformed into profitable exclusivity. Another dead place polished and sold back to the city as progress. The thought made him grimace. A negotiator stepped closer, crouching to Jonathan's eye level. "Mr. Hale, we need to ask again. Has anyone threatened you recently?" Jonathan looked at him. "Define recently." "Past week." Jonathan gave a dry smile. "Only everyone. That's not helpful. It's not meant to be." The negotiator held his gaze. For a moment, Jonathan saw what the man was really thinking. What powerful men always had enemies. That maybe this one had earned his. That maybe the line between victim and consequence was not as clean as a bomb and a chair made it look. Jonathan leaned his head back slightly. 3 board fights, a hostile acquisition attempt, 2 labor actions, a class action lawsuit. Pick one. The negotiator frowned. "You're saying this could be corporate retaliation?" "I'm saying hatred is a competitive market." Then, a voice came from the doorway. Small, clear, almost polite. "Excuse me." Every head turned at once. Standing in the open doorway, with rain behind her and a cheap backpack hanging from one shoulder, was a little girl. No older than 8. Barefoot, hair damp and tangled. Thin sweater, too large in the shoulders and torn at one sleeve. She should not have been anywhere near that room. One guard moved instantly. "Get her out." But before he could reach her, the girl took 2 steps forward and looked directly at Jonathan. Not at the bomb, not at the guards, at him. Her eyes were strange, not fearless, just focused, as if she had seen enough bad things already to stop being impressed by danger. Jonathan stared. The bomb technician swore under his breath. Who let her in here? No one answered, 'cause no one knew. The theater had been sealed, the perimeter secured, and yet there she was. The girl adjusted the backpack strap on her shoulder and said, with calm certainty, "That's not the dangerous wire." Silence swallowed the room. The lead technician slowly straightened. "What did you say?" She pointed. Not dramatically, simply. "The red wire is there to make you panic." The technician stepped toward her, then stopped himself. "How do you know that?" The girl shrugged. "My father used to build things people weren't supposed to touch." The officers exchanged looks. Jonathan's pulse changed. Not calmer, sharper. There was something in the way she said it. No performance, no attempt to shock, just fact. "What's your name?" Jonathan asked. She looked at him. "Sophia." The negotiator crouched slightly. "Sophia, where is your father?" She did not answer him. She kept looking at Jonathan. He said, "Rich people only listen when there's a clock." That sentence landed like a second device in the room. The bomb technician turned back to the vest on Jonathan's chest. His eyes moved faster now, more carefully, as if embarrassed to admit that an 8-year-old might have noticed something he had not. He muttered to himself, "Red wire. False panic." "Then what are you hiding?" Sophia took another small step forward. One guard reached out to stop her. Jonathan spoke first. "Let her come." The guard hesitated. "Sir, let her come." The bomb technician did not object. That alone was enough to change the room. Sophia moved closer until she stood a few feet from Jonathan. Close enough now for him to see that her hands were dirty from old dust, like she had been crawling somewhere before entering. Close enough to notice a bruise on one knee. Close enough to realize she was cold, and still not shaking. "How did you get in here?" Jonathan asked. "The back door. There are police everywhere. They weren't watching the alley roof." The answer was so absurdly practical that even one of the officers blinked in disbelief. The negotiator tried again. "Sophia, where is your father?" This time she answered, "Watching." The word chilled the room. The technician's head snapped up. "Watching from where?" She looked toward the balcony level above the old stage. The dark upper boxes. Broken curtains, shadows. Officers raised weapons instinctively. "No," the technician barked. "No sudden movement. No one fired. No one moved." The balcony remained empty, or looked empty. Rain thudded faintly against the high windows. Jonathan looked at Sophia carefully. "Why are you helping me?" That question changed her expression for the first time. Something brief passed over her face. Sadness or anger, maybe both. Then she said quietly, "I'm not helping you." Jonathan frowned. The timer blinked again. 0 hours, 1 minute and 47 seconds. Sophia looked at the bomb. "I'm helping what happens after." Those words settled into him like ice, because they meant something larger than survival, larger than the device. This was not random. This was a message. And somehow, impossibly, this child stood in the center of it. The technician leaned closer again. "Show me what you saw." Sophia pointed to the lower right side of the casing, under the tape. "That's where he hides the real switch." The technician peeled back the strip with painstaking care. Underneath was a second contact trigger wired to the yellow line. His face changed. "Damn." He looked up at Jonathan. "She's right." A ripple of tension moved through the room. The negotiator turned to another officer. "Find visual on the balcony and the rear roof now." They moved with terrifying slowness, careful not to shake the floor too hard. Jonathan kept his eyes on Sophia. what does your father want?" She took longer to answer this time. When she did, her voice was softer. "He wants you to hear something before the time ends." Jonathan felt a bitter smile try to rise and fail. "Everyone wants that lately." Sophia ignored the joke. "He said you ruin places and call it progress." That sentence hit harder than the first, because now Jonathan understood not exactly who, but the shape of it. A grievance, a destroyed neighborhood, a development project. A family displaced. He had approved dozens, hundreds, entire districts redrawn on screens by men in jackets who called demolition renewal. "How old are you?" he asked suddenly. 8. "How long have you been with him?" She looked down. "Since my grandmother died." The room seemed to sharpen around those words. Something was wrong here beyond the bomb, beyond the threat. The technician interrupted. "I need quiet." Everyone stopped speaking. He studied the wiring again. Read. Fake panic, yellow, trigger relay, blue line feeding the timer board, black line grounding the pressure switch. Sweat gathered at his temple. "Who taught him?" he muttered. Sophia answered quietly, "Nobody. He taught himself because nobody listened when he did things the normal way." Jonathan stared at her. For the first time, beneath the fear and calculation, something else appeared. Shame. Not full, not named, not even accepted. But there. Because he knew that logic. Not the bomb. The part before it, the ignored part, the part where people screamed through paperwork and were told to wait politely while men like him signed anyway. The timer blinked. 0 hours 1 minute and 21 seconds, the technician inhaled carefully. "If I cut the wrong wire, pressure engages and the vest detonates." Jonathan nodded once. "So don't cut the wrong one." The technician almost smiled, despite himself. Sophia looked at Jonathan. "You make jokes when you're scared." He looked back at her. "You talk like you're older than everyone here." A tiny pause. Then she said, "Sometimes that happens." No one in the room had an answer for that. The rain intensified outside. Somewhere above, an old metal vent banged once in the wind. Every weapon in the room lifted half an inch. No shot came, no movement. Only the timer. 0 hours, 1 minute and 8 seconds, and the strange, terrible fact that the most useful person in the room might be the smallest one. The rain outside the abandoned theater grew heavier. Water ran down the tall, broken windows like trembling veins. Inside the room, every breath felt louder than it should. The timer blinked again. 0 hours, 1 minute and 4 seconds, the bomb technician slowly adjusted his gloves. His eyes moved between the wires, the timer board, and the strange relay mechanism hidden beneath the casing. Then, he spoke quietly. This device wasn't built by an amateur. No one answered, because everyone already understood that. The structure of the bomb was too precise. Too intentional, too careful. It wasn't meant to explode quickly. It was meant to create tension, fear, a moment where everyone in the room had to listen. The technician glanced briefly at Sophia. "Your father taught you about this?" Sophia shook her head. "He never taught me." "Then how did you know about the red wire?" She pointed to the small control module again. "Because he always hides the real danger, somewhere people stop looking." The technician leaned closer again. Carefully peeling away a small piece of black insulation tape. Underneath it, exactly where Sophia had pointed earlier, was a tiny pressure switch wired to the yellow cable. His stomach tightened. "If I cut the red wire first," he muttered. The negotiator finished the sentence. "It detonates." The technician nodded slowly. "That's exactly what it does." A low ripple of tension moved through the officers standing along the walls. Jonathan felt the shift immediately. Not panic. Something worse. Realization. They had almost triggered the bomb already, and the only reason they hadn't was an 8-year-old girl. Jonathan looked at Sophia again. "Why did your father bring you here?" She looked down at her shoes, or rather, at the absence of them. "My father says people like you only believe things when someone innocent is standing in the room." Jonathan didn't answer immediately. Because that sentence carried something he didn't want to examine too closely. "What does he want me to believe?" Jonathan asked finally. Sophia raised her eyes again. "That what happened to us wasn't an accident." The negotiator slowly crouched down beside Sophia. "Tell us your father's name." She hesitated, then said quietly, "Daniel Reyes." The name meant nothing to most of the officers in the room, but Jonathan felt something twist in his chest, not recognition, but familiarity. Like hearing a word from a language you once studied and almost forgot. "Daniel Reyes." The technician continued studying the bomb. "Your father is nearby." Sophia nodded toward the dark balcony again. "He's watching. Why didn't he come himself?" Her answer came softly. "Because people with guns don't listen very well." The negotiator spoke again. "Sophia, what happened to your family?" She looked at Jonathan. Not the police. Not the technician. Jonathan. "My dad used to fix machines." "What kind of machines?" the negotiator asked. "Factory machines." Jonathan's pulse changed again. Factories, machines, repairs. Suddenly a distant memory pushed forward in his mind. A small industrial plant on the edge of the city. Old equipment, low productivity. A financial report recommending closure. He had approved it without hesitation. "Your father worked at Harley Systems?" Jonathan asked quietly. Sophia nodded. Yes. The air inside the room grew heavier. Jonathan remembered now. The factory had closed 2 years earlier. The land had been sold to a development company. Hundreds of workers laid off. Some had protested, some had sued, most had simply disappeared into unemployment, What happened after the factory closed? Jonathan asked carefully. Sophia's voice was small but steady. My grandma got sick. Jonathan felt the sentence before it finished. We couldn't pay for the medicine. No one in the room spoke. Even the bomb technician slowed his movements. My dad tried to talk to the company people. Sophia continued. He said the machines could be fixed and the factory could stay open. What happened? Jonathan asked. They told him the decision was already made. Jonathan closed his eyes briefly. He remembered those meetings. Numbers on screens, profit forecasts, efficiency reports, not faces, never faces. My grandma died that winter, Sophia said. The words were simple, but the silence after them felt enormous. The negotiator glanced at Jonathan, then back to Sophia. And your father blamed Mr. Hale. Sophia shook her head. No. She looked at Jonathan again. He blamed the people who stopped listening. Suddenly a voice echoed from above. Finally, every weapon in the room lifted instantly. The officers aimed toward the dark balcony. A man stepped forward slowly from the shadows. Thin. Bearded, clothes soaked from rain. His hands were raised, but his eyes were locked on Jonathan Holley, Daniel Reyes, the father, the bomb builder, the man responsible for everything happening inside that room. And, strangely, he looked less like a terrorist than a tired mechanic. Don't shoot, he said calmly. I didn't come here to hurt anyone else. The negotiator stepped forward. You already hurt someone. Daniel glanced at the bomb on Jonathan's chest. That depends on what happens next. Jonathan spoke first. You built this. Daniel nodded. Yes, why not just kill me? Daniel smiled faintly. Because death is fast. He pointed toward the bomb, but listening takes time. The timer blinked again. 0 hours, 0 minutes and 53 seconds. Daniel looked at Sophia. You did well. Sophia nodded once. Jonathan studied him carefully. Daniel Reyes did not look insane. He did not look violent. He looked exhausted. Like a man who had spent too long shouting into rooms where nobody answered. Why bring your daughter? Jonathan asked. Daniel's expression changed slightly. Because she reminds people that consequences don't end when the cameras turn off. Jonathan understood. This wasn't revenge. Not exactly. This was demonstration. A forced conversation. A man who had lost everything. Making sure someone powerful finally heard the story. You could have written a letter, Jonathan said quietly. Daniel laughed once. I did. And your assistant sent back a form response. The negotiator closed his eyes briefly. Jonathan didn't, because he knew that was exactly how it would have happened. Thousands of messages every week, complaints, appeals, stories, and some were in the middle of them. Daniel Reyes, a man whose life had collapsed after one decision on a spreadsheet. The bomb technician interrupted. I can disarm it." Everyone turned. "But I need to cut the yellow wire first." Daniel nodded. "That's correct," the technician continued. "But if I do it too early, the pressure switch triggers." Daniel looked at Sophia, then at Jonathan. "That depends on whether Mr. Haler is ready to answer one question." Jonathan felt the weight of the room settle onto him. "What question?" Daniel's voice became quieter. "When you closed that factory, did you ever once ask what would happen to the people inside it?" Jonathan did not answer immediately, because the honest answer was worse than silence. The timer blinked again. 0 hours 0 minutes and 41 seconds. Daniel spoke again. "I don't want your money. I don't want revenge. I want to know if you even noticed." Jonathan slowly lifted his eyes to meet his, and for the first time since the bomb had been strapped to his chest, he answered without calculation. "No." The word landed heavily. Jonathan continued. "I saw numbers. I saw costs. I saw projections." He swallowed once. "But I didn't see you." The silence that followed felt almost sacred. Daniel studied him, not angrily, not even triumphantly, just carefully, as if deciding whether the truth was enough. Then he turned to the technician. "Cut the yellow wire." The technician exhaled slowly. His cutters moved toward the cable. The timer blinked again. 0 hours 0 minutes and 28 seconds. The entire room stopped breathing, and the future of everyone inside that theater balanced on the edge of a single thin wire. The entire room seemed to stop breathing. The bomb technician held the wire cutters in his trembling hand. The yellow wire stretched across the device like a fragile thread between life and death. The timer blinked again. 0 hours 0 minutes and 27 seconds. A drop of sweat slid down the technician's temple. He didn't wipe it away. He couldn't. Even the smallest sudden movement could be dangerous. Jonathan Haler stared straight ahead. His chest barely moved. His breathing slow, controlled. For the first time since the bomb had been discovered, he wasn't thinking about the explosion anymore. He was thinking about Sophia, about the way she had walked calmly into a room full of guns and panic, about the way she had spoken to him like a person instead of a symbol, and about the man standing above them in the balcony shadows. Daniel Reyes, a factory mechanic whose life had collapsed because of a decision Jonathan had made in a glass office hundreds of miles away. A decision that had taken less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Jonathan had spent longer choosing the color of conference room chairs, and now that decision had brought them all to this moment. The timer blinked again. 0 hours 0 minutes and 22 seconds. The bomb technician inhaled slowly. Then he cut the yellow wire. For one terrible second, nothing happened. Every person in the room froze. Then the timer changed. 0 hours 0 minutes and 21 seconds. It stopped counting. But the device was not fully disabled. The technician quickly leaned closer. Good. His fingers carefully pulled apart the remaining wires. The pressure trigger released with a soft metallic click. Another wire came loose, then another. Finally, the technician leaned back. His shoulders sagged with relief. "It's done." For a moment, no one moved. No one spoke. Then the room erupted with sound. Officers rushing forward, radios crackling, commands being shouted. Two officers quickly untied Jonathan from the chair. Another carefully removed the bomb vest from his chest. Jonathan sat there, breathing slowly, alive. The negotiator turned toward the balcony. Daniel Reyes stepped forward slowly. Daniel didn't move immediately. He looked down at Jonathan for a long moment. Then he raised his hands again and walked toward the stairs. Two officers moved cautiously to meet him. But something unexpected happened. Sophia ran across the room first. "Daddy?" Daniel dropped to one knee just before the officers reached him. Sophia wrapped her arms around his neck. For a moment, the entire situation felt strangely human again. Just a father and a daughter. Jonathan watched the scene quietly. Daniel looked at him over Sophia's shoulder. There was no hatred in his eyes now, only exhaustion. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," Daniel said. The negotiator spoke calmly. "You built a bomb." "Yes," Daniel replied. "And I brought my daughter so nobody would pull the trigger too soon." The officers carefully placed handcuffs around his wrists. Daniel didn't resist. Sophia looked up at him. "Are you in trouble?" Daniel kissed the top of her head. "Maybe." Jonathan stood slowly. His legs felt unsteady after being tied down so long. The room smelled of dust, sweat, and rain. He walked toward them. The officers tensed slightly, but did not stop him. Jonathan stopped a few feet away from Daniel and Sophia. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. "You didn't need to do this." Daniel gave a tired smile. "Yes, I did." Jonathan didn't argue, because deep down, he knew Daniel was right. 30 minutes later, the theater was surrounded by flashing police lights. Paramedics checked Jonathan's pulse and blood pressure. The bomb squad secured the device. News helicopters began circling above the city. Inside a police vehicle, Daniel Reyes sat with his hands cuffed. Sophia sat beside him, wrapped in a warm blanket someone had found. Jonathan stood nearby, speaking quietly with the police chief. "What happens to him now?" Jonathan asked. The chief sighed. "He'll be charged with terrorism, unlawful explosives, kidnapping, attempted murder." Jonathan interrupted. "He never intended to detonate the bomb." The chief looked at him. "That's not what the law sees." Jonathan glanced towards Sophia. She was drawing something on a small piece of paper someone had given her. "What about the girl?" Jonathan asked. "She'll go into protective custody." Jonathan frowned. "No family. None we've found yet." Jonathan looked back toward the police car. Sophia was showing her drawing to Daniel through the bars. Daniel smiled faintly, despite everything. Jonathan turned back to the chief. "What if I say I'm not pressing charges?" The chief raised an eyebrow. "That's not how this works." Jonathan thought for a moment. Then he said something that surprised even himself. "What if I say I'm responsible?" The chief blinked. "For what?" Jonathan looked at the ground briefly. "For ignoring the people who built my success." The chief studied him carefully. "Mr. Haley, you don't have to do this." Jonathan looked back at Sophia. The girl waved at him, a simple, innocent wave, the kind children use when they assume adults will make the right decisions. And suddenly, Jonathan realized something. Money had protected him his entire life, protected him from consequences, protected him from the human cost of his decisions. But tonight, an 8-year-old girl had walked into a room and forced him to see it, and he couldn't unsee it anymore. "I'm not doing this for him," Jonathan said quietly. "I'm doing it for her." 6 months later, a new building opened on the east side of the city. It stood where the abandoned factory once had, but instead of luxury apartments, it was something else entirely. The Reyes Innovation Center, a place designed to train engineers, mechanics, and technicians from struggling communities. Inside the lobby hung a large photograph, not of Jonathan Hull, but of a small girl with messy hair and serious eyes, Sophia. Jonathan stood beside her at the opening ceremony. Reporters crowded around them. Cameras flashed. One journalist asked the obvious question, "Mr. Haley, why did you build this?" Jonathan looked down at Sophia, then back at the crowd. "Because sometimes the bravest person in the room," he paused, "is the one who isn't afraid to tell the truth." Sophia tugged his sleeve. "Can we get ice cream now?" Jonathan laughed. The first real laugh he had allowed himself in months. "Yes," he said, "I think we can. And for the first time in a very long time." Jonathan Harley realized something extraordinary. The thing that had nearly killed him had also saved him, because the most powerful moment of his life had not come from money, or success, or control. It had come from a small barefoot girl who refused to walk away. And sometimes that is the moment when a life truly begins again.